And we're back again. Let's look at the mechanic momentum. Let's compare momentum within units and between units. And let's think about how best we can use this mechanic and where it's going to fit best in our army. So first of all, how do you get and lose this mechanic? Or this? How do you get and lose momentum? Okay, so you start at 1. You can have a maximum of 6. You get D3 momentum, so an average of 2, whenever you run or charge. So if you run on turn, if you start at 1 momentum and you run, there's a 1 in 3 chance that you can then charge. So without any kind of tricks or manipulation, it is incredibly inconsistent. It'll be nice when it happens. If you send your gore, your whatever, your gouger, your Maw Grunta off to the side, and it, you know, smashes some unit that's on the flank, right? Like something like that, like something that your opponent teleported in your backline, and you're just gonna, you know, you're gonna move him off over there and charge into him and smash him, and you get, you know, 3 momentum points, right? Then on your next turn, you'll start with 1 momentum. Sorry, you'll be at 2 momentum. So, like, there's some kind of situations where, like, it'll be nice when it happens, but you can't plan around it. It'll be wildly inconsistent. If you want to have momentum and you want to guarantee that you have momentum, you need to have some kind of trick. Okay, there's 2. There's 2 tricks. The first one is Rabble Rouser. Check out my video on how to use Rabble Rouser if you're curious how this works. But basically, every monster can run and charge, as long as they run and then charge and end closer to Rabble Rouser. Again, check out my video. It's a lot easier than you think. Rabble Rouser only costs 100 points. That's good. She's pretty cheap. So this is really good if you want to do a turn 1 Alpha Strike. I said Iron Jaw's Alpha Strike because Big Wad probably doesn't want to... Big Wad isn't going to want to do this. Big Wad doesn't have the hero slots to run Rabble Rouser. Big Wad doesn't want to do like a 1 pig turn 1 Alpha Strike and you spend 100 points. Like, it's just not going to be worth it. I mean, like, here's a question with the momentum. Is it like you roll the run roll? And that's actually really interesting. Do you get the momentum points when you make the run roll or when you finish the run? I guess it doesn't matter. Here's something you could do. You can move the pig forward, the big pig forward, and then you could roll your run. And if you get 3 momentum, you know, then you can run forward and charge. However, if you run and you get 1 momentum, you can just run backwards. You run back towards your army. So you could do that. You could be like, okay, you know, and this is something you could do in Big Wah, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to set my pig up over here on the side, and then turn 1, I'm going to move him forward 9, or however, and then I'm going to make my run roll, and then depending on that, I'm going to, make my decision after that. I mean, that's interesting. So it says finishes a run or charge move. Add D3. So you have to actually make the run. So never mind. You can't do that. You can't do that. You don't get to see your momentum before you move your run. You have to finish the run roll. So that's unfortunate. So never mind. I thought that might be a trick, but it's not. So Rabble Rouser, turn 1 Alpha Strike. That's what that is, right? You can do it for all of your monsters. And you can choose. So you're like, well, this one's going to run and charge, but this one's not. You know, the Mega Boss isn't going to run and charge. Instead, he's going to fasten, and he's going to move across the battlefield so that my pigs can go left and he can go right, you know. So that's him. The other one is Zarbag. He has it's another Gits hero. He has a spell called Face of the Bad Mood. It has a casting value of 5 and a 9-inch range. You force an enemy to retreat. So this is more of a Big Wah strategy, where your opponent has charged into your Ardboys, and then what you do is you Mighty Destroy or charge a Big Pig. So your Big Pig has to be within charge range at the start of the turn, so that's a thing. And then you force the enemy to retreat, which means you have to successfully get a spell off. And then in the charge phase, you charge again. So, and maybe you run first, right? So let's say you start at 1 momentum, you're going to Mighty Destroy or charge, now you're at 3 momentum. Then you're going to run and you're going to be at 5 momentum, and then you charge again to be at maximum momentum. But there's a lot of ifs. And Zarbag is 180 points. And Big Wah is really greedy with its hero slots. So people are talking about Zarbag, but I don't think it's going to work. It's too situational. It's not for alpha striking at all. It's too many points, and it's a hero slot. Like, it's just not going to be good. But it's the only other thing that I saw people talking about, right? So you lose a momentum at the end of the turn. It says here, right here. I'll read it right off the page. At the end of each turn, at the end of your turn, and then at the end of your opponent's turn, and then you get double turn. So at the end of your opponent's double turn, you lose 1 momentum to a minimum of 1. So on average, you're gaining 2 on your turn, and then by your next turn, you're back to 1. That's going to be the normal thing, is you're gonna get it as fast as you lose it. Therefore, bursting momentum on your turn is the only real way to get momentum up reliably. The only way to get momentum up reliably is to run and charge on your turn. So, you know, there's a 1 in 3 chance that you start your turn with 2 momentum. If you roll a 3 and you don't get double turn, it's not even a 1 in 3 chance. It's worse than a 1 in 3 chance, because you have to roll the die, and then you have to roll the 3, and then you have to not get double turned, right? So, yep. I think that the run and charge mechanic will be nice if you were able to run and, if you were able to start your turn with some momentum, and the turn before, like if you send out a gouger to kill like a little unit off on the side, like a little whatever, like a little screen, little dork holding an objective, if you can, just move and then charge and then get 3 momentum and kill that unit at the start of your next turn if you didn't get double turned, because if you did get double turned, you're back to 1. But if you didn't get double turned, you can start with 2 momentum, and then you can move, right? And then you can run, because you're way off on the side, and hopefully get at least 2 more momentum on that run, right? And then you can charge. So even then, it's like, if you roll well, and then if you don't get double turned, and then if you roll well, it's like if 2 die rolls are average or better, and then if it's like, it's gonna be, when it happens, you'll be like, awesome, that's great. But when it doesn't happen, you'll think, okay, this is normal. Like I wasn't expecting it to happen. I wasn't expecting it to happen. So it's like, that's what this unit's like. This momentum mechanic, this momentum mechanic doesn't do that, right? So you have to burst it on your turn. That's the only way to get it. So what do we get when we do have it? Well, you get these 2 monstrous actions. But they're only really viable if you have a 5-up momentum. Again, which means you need a trick to get there. You need a trick to get there. If you don't have a trick, you're not going to have 5-up momentum. If you run and charge in 1 turn, on average, you're going to get 4 momentum, which means you're going to be at 5-up, right? But if you don't, you're not going to have 5 momentum. It's just not going to happen. So the 2 monstrous actions, the one that's on like the elite and the hero, like the hack and crew and the test boss, pick one enemy unit with a wounds characteristic of 4 or less within 3 of this unit and roll the die. If the roll is less than this unit's momentum score, so again, if you have 5-up momentum, it turns into essentially a 3-up, right? So 2 numbers are fails and 4 numbers are success. That unit suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to the roll. So you want to roll under momentum. You want to roll under momentum, but you do a number of wounds equal to the roll. I guess that makes sense, because as momentum goes up, you can roll higher and higher numbers and deal more and more damage, right? So it's going to deal, like some mortal wounds, like a fair number, like 3, 4, 5, unlikely, but 5, right? That'd be nice, 5 mortal wounds. And then you can immediately attempt a charge with this unit, so you're going to move an average of 7 inches. If it's Ironjaw's Wah, that turns into 8 inches. If it's Big Wah, that also turns into 8 inches on average. So when a unit charges in this manner, it can pass across enemy units with a wound characteristic of 1 or 2 in the same manner as a unit that can fly. So it means that you can fly over a screen, and you can get into the squishy heroes in the back. Good, monstrous rampage. It's good. if you can run and charge in the same turn, you'll on average have a momentum of 5, which means on a 3-up, you get to move at least, you know, like on average 7-8 inches away from some dumb screen into the back line and kill something important. Because at this point, now you're at 6 momentum because now you've charged again, right? So if you successfully carry out this monstrous rampage, you're gonna be at 6 momentum most likely because you've rolled 3d3 in the same turn, and you only need 5 on those rolls, right? 3d3 to get 5. The probability that you have maxed out your table here is really strong. That also means at the beginning of your next turn, you're going to be at 4 momentum, right? So like this monstrous rampage is actually quite strong because it's building momentum, okay? So in an Ironjaw's list, I could see taking the Mogrunta with the Hacken Crew to get access to this monstrous rampage. So you can jump over, and so your opponent can't just like set up a whole bunch of screens. You can also do some really tricky stuff where if your opponent has stuff in reserve, you know, you can sort of block out this back line. So it's like, well, where are you going to put it? There's nowhere good to put it now. No matter where you put your units on the table, there's going to be something that's, you know, going to be within striking distance on my next turn. So this Carve a Path is actually quite strong. And then the second one, Flattened into the Mud. Only a model in a unit that has made a charge move this turn can carry out this monstrous rampage. So this is different from the Carve a Path, right? Because you have to have charge, which is fine. Pick an enemy unit with a wounds characteristic of 1 or 2 within 3 inches of this unit and roll a die. If the roll is less than this unit's momentum score, the strike last effect applies to that unit until the end of that turn. So again, it turns into a 3-up if you have 5 momentum. You need to run and charge in the same turn to be able to get this off. But if you do, the strike last effect is really powerful because it also combos really well with Smashin' and Bashin'. Right? Imagine if you have a Hacken Crew and he gets into the back line, kills some other unit. You have a unit, another, like a Mega Boss over here. Mega Boss pops Destroyer, kills another unit. You know, it's like nothing has fought back yet. And so the unit in front of you has strike last. So even though, like, you know, like it's, it sort of works well and synergizes well with Smashin' and Bashin'. It's like I'm going to call the Wah, and I'm going to attack with a lot of my big smashy momentum fueled units before you get a chance to do anything back. So good monstrous rampages. And then the Maw Crusher stomps, right? Because you have destructive bulk. So yeah, like fantastic, right? Like these are good monstrous actions. I'm a big fan. What else does it give you? Well, it gives you damage, right? On 4-up, 4 or more momentum, you can run and charge. On 5 or more momentum, you can use these monstrous actions. You can use the monstrous action no matter how much momentum you have, but if you have 4 momentum, like if it's a 50-50 chance, Roar, Stomp, Titanic Duel, you know, like if your momentum is poor, take a different monstrous action. Roar is good. Roar is a good monstrous action, right? So if you had like 3 units, right, it's like Stomp, Roar, Titanic Duel if you have no momentum. But so yeah, it does the run and charge, it does the monstrous action, and then it also increases damage. So if you're looking at the Hacken Crew, one of its attacks goes from 1 rend all the way up to 3 rend at 6 momentum, and the Mighty Tusks on all of them, their damage goes from D3 to D3 plus 3, right? So it does a number of additional wounds, or it does a number of additional damage equal to half your momentum score rounded down. So if you have 3 momentum, it's going to deal an average of, or it's going to deal 1 more damage on Mighty Tusks. So here's a comparison. So here we have Gougers. So Gougers are going to start with 1 momentum at their bottom. They're going to start at 6.52 expected damage versus a 4-up save, which is 0.036 damage per point. So you can see that as we go from the Gouger to the Hacken Crew, the damage does go up. However, the damage per point goes down. So you can get 2 Gougers for the cost of a Tusk Boss, right? It's 20 points cheaper. So we're looking at 13.04 damage compared to 8.89 damage for 2 Gougers versus a Tusk Boss. Straight up, I don't think a Tusk Boss is worth playing at all. If you're out there wondering if you should buy this thing, it's like, don't. The only way that you would want to run a Tusk boss is if you had, if you're running the Army of Renown. Check out my next video for my review on the Army of Renown. But without that, it's like the Gougers are going to be straight up better, and the Hack and Crew is better because it's 90 points cheaper. It does more damage per point, and it also and then it has access to that monstrous action. It's elite, so it can issue its own commands. Like, there's no reason I can see that you would want to take a Tusk boss. Anyway, so for Gougers, we start at 6.52, and then as we move up, once we have 2 and 3 momentum, we're going to get an increase in damage of average 0.89. So it's like, whatever. It's a little bit extra damage. You know, like, that's fine. And then as we go up, because the thing about the Gougers, the only thing that we're doing is we're just adding +1, +2, and then +3 damage to Mighty Tusks. That's it. We're not increasing our rend anywhere, but these Mighty Tusk damage, the attack has 3 rend. So the damage that's increasing, there's only 2 attacks, right? But it has 3 rend, so it'll probably it'll be more reliable damage, which is nice. Once we get up to 4 and 5 momentum, now we're adding +1.78, so almost 2 damage. And then when we're at 6, we're adding 2.67 damage from 1 momentum. So it's good. The damage per point cost for a Gouger when it's at 6 momentum is 0.051, which I think is the highest out of any unit in Ironjawz. I'd have to see. I haven't done my math on the Mega Boss on Maw-Krusha. I have a feeling that the Mega Boss on Maw-Krusha with Destroyer might beat that. But barring that exception, even a Mega Boss on Maw-Krusha like by himself, I'm pretty sure that a Gouger is going to deal more damage per point because it's only 180 points. And this doesn't include any damage from like Stomp or anything else, right? This is just straight up the unit. And then again, as the Gouger, Hack and Crew, and Tusk boss, as they get to level 6, the amount of damage per point actually decreases relative, right, to the score. So it does go up, but you know, if we look at the Tusk boss, for example, we start with 0.023 damage per point, and we end up at 0.032. So the increase is only going to be 0.009 damage from the lowest to the highest, but the Gouger at 0.051, starting at 0.036, we're getting an increase of 0.015. So we're getting a, you know, as we get momentum, the Gouger becomes more and more worth its points. It becomes more and more worth its points. So it's really good. Take Gougers, build Gougers, take Gougers. Yeah, jeez. So conclusion, this mechanic is poorly designed. It's poorly designed. You can, like, it just is. It's like, hey, we have this thing about maintaining and keeping momentum, but if you don't have a trick to run in charge, like, you don't build it, right? So they could have done something like, you know, if at the end of your turn, if at the end of your turn, if there's an enemy within 3, lose a momentum. That would work, right? Like when you smash into something, if the thing you smash into doesn't just buckle under your feet, you maintain momentum. Or if there's a unit within 3, lose a momentum. If there's not a unit within 3, roll a die. On a 4-up, you lose momentum. Like some way of conserving momentum between turns. You could also only lose momentum on your turn. So if you run, if you charge, you're going to get, you know, D3 momentum, and then you're just going to lose 1 momentum. At the end of your turn, lose 1 momentum, not at the end of each turn. But there's no, yeah. More conclusions. There's 0 reason to run Tusk boss. I said this before, 2 Gougers are 20 points cheaper than a Tusk boss, and unlocking the battle line just doesn't seem worth it. If you're playing Iron Suns, if you're playing Dechappas, you're going to run a bunch of Ardboys. You don't need the battle line. If you're playing Bloodtooth, you're going to run some Gorgruntas. You don't need the battle line. If you're playing Big Wah, it's too expensive. 380 points to unlock Gougers' battle line is too expensive. I sat down, I wrote a bunch of lists. It's too expensive. Also, in Big Wah, you know, we're really, we really appreciate our hero slots. And what are you going to take for an enhancement, right? All, like, everything is out that for these books. there's nothing that you can take on a Tusk boss. You're gonna take a universal. Jeez, you have to take a like it just hurts my brain. Like it really does. You have to take a universal enhancement for a brand new mounted Ironjawz hero for 380 points. You have to take a universal enhancement. Like it blows my mind. What are you taking? Battle Lust? You can reroll his charges? Like, you know, like what are you doing? Skilled Leader is bad. Right? Once per round, there's a 33% chance you get an extra command point. It's just bad. Add 1 wound. Like, what do you... Like, by taking him as your general, not only is he expensive, not only do you not need the battle line, but you're throwing away a command trait. You can't... Like, it's just bad. The lack of a monster damage table is significantly better than momentum. The fact that none of these attacks from our Gougers or from our Maw-Gruntas in general decrease as this unit takes damage is way better than momentum. Momentum is going to be sometimes a pleasant surprise. Like you'll be at the table and you'll be like, oh man, I need to get over and snag that objective from you and kill the one model you have left on that objective. And I'm going to run and hopefully get a good run roll, but hopefully also get 3 momentum so that then I can charge. Come on, baby. And sometimes it's going to feel really nice. But Alpha Strike lists like it. Alpha Strike lists like it. If you're playing Rabble Rouser and you run in charge on turn 1, and you're playing a Bloodtooth Ironjawz list, and you crash into your opponent on turn 1, and you have 2 or 3 units that all ran in charge with momentum, because Rabble Rouser doesn't say pick 1, it's any monster. So Alpha Strike lists are gonna like this. You know, that getting that 5 momentum. Like let's have another look at it here. So if let's say you're playing, I have a list right now, an Ironjawz list, where I'm playing a unit of 2 Gougers and I'm playing 1 Hacking Crew. The reason I want the Hacking Crew is because I want access to that monstrous action. I want to be able to jump through and kill some stuff in the back. So that's the list I'm play testing right now. And so the Gougers, like that extra 2.67 damage is per Gouger. Right? So if you have a list of 2 of them, and you're doubling that, you're gonna add an extra 5 damage. Right? Like that's a lot, and that's on average. You're gonna add an extra 5 damage on average. Right? And that's cool. Like a reinforced Gougers unit with full momentum crashing in, your opponent can deal 11 wounds to it and nothing has changed. There's been no decrease in damage. Right? So even if you don't, like, you're gonna deal a lot of damage, and then even on the next turn your opponent has to come at you. They have to pour a lot of stuff into it to get rid of the one of them. Right? And if they don't, and if you have 5 momentum, you're gonna lose 2, but you'll still have some momentum. Right? So like Alpha Strike lists are really gonna like this momentum. I think that Ironjawz are the winners for the big pigs. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Join the Discord, or else I know where you live. Like, subscribe. Wah.